Oni here with another beginner build for you. This is specifically looking at a hatch ranch that I converted from a 5 height to a 4 height and fixed up the egg chamber. So the specific build here is going to be looking at the egg chamber, but I also wanted to highlight the fact that if you watched my previous hatch ranch beginner build, that was a 5x1 and I went over why I prefer that. This one is a 4x1, it has different benefits, so I'm going to go through all of those with you right now. Okay, so the first thing we're going to be looking at, we're going to look at all the overlays. Our auction's not looking great. We have a very simple power overlay. It is my opinion that you should have your power be on a separate channel for all of your ranches than everything else. And the reason is, in case this fails, this can still remain functional. These you can just have the potential load be really high on because these generally are not going to be on at the same time. So you can take that chance with this stuff. Unless you have like an absurd amount of ranches and you maybe need to split it up again, I generally just put them all in the same thing and have the potential load be way beyond what it can currently handle. And that's okay with me. Later, if you start to get concerned about it, you can always do like a power shut off on a timer setup, because these don't always need immediate attention. You could just filter through each of them, so you could just have them all on the same power, and that way you never have the potential load problems that you might run into. Okay, that went a little too soon there. Okay, our heat is a little hot here, but that's okay. I have blocked off this area, so we're good to go there. Okay, don't really care about this overlay. You don't need to light these areas because the light does not affect the work being done by the rancher. So you could light these areas so they move a little quicker, but just don't have it. You could light it for the closet space so they can access this stuff faster. But again, this is just such a dump spot. Don't really care about it. You can see our decor is very high. In fact, it is almost maximum until you start getting deeper into the closet, and then it gets negative. But I'm going to be putting paintings here, so that will be mitigated at a later time. But otherwise, this is very good decor, and that's very important for your dupes. The little hatches give out a small decor. So if these are full, this is probably just going to be maximized. But you really want to be focusing on the main areas they're going to be, which is in this zone for your dupes. Germ overlay, nothing to worry about there. No need to worry about farming overlay. Okay, so our stables, you can see that this build is 96 tiles long. The entire thing is 104 tiles. So that's if you include both the egg chamber and this little blip right here. So a very clean setup. Fits into a perfect square, just the kind of thing that I like to have and build in Oni. And just having this egg chamber be this size is what is really helping that work. No need for exosuits here. Okay, so let's get into our automation. I'm gonna do the conveyor overlay and the automation at the same time. We don't need to look at the radiation. Doesn't really matter here. Okay, so here's a basic setup of how this works. We're going to zero in on this little chunk here. So you can ignore the one up top because it is mirrored, except I forgot to add that. So, leave me alone. Okay. Auto sweeper. So the auto sweeper is in the center of all this stuff. So it sees all. And that's really important because if you maybe had this one more over, your hatch could lay an egg here. And then now the auto sweeper can't manage it. Now your dupes have to manage it. And that's not what we want. We want the auto sweeper to do most of the work. And we want our dupes to do the work that only dupes can do, which is using the grooming station to make these hatches feel better. So all the other manual labor should be handled by the auto sweeper. And if you are making a hatch ranch, I would make it 9 tiles or less, because that way you only need 1 auto sweeper. You might at some point need to have 2 auto sweepers, and that's just, if that's the build, then that's the build. So, but when you think about that, when you do that, you may need to have an overlay so they can both access the conveyor loaders, or Like when I say overlay, you might need them to overlap like something like this. See? So that way it can see that stuff there. Okay, you understand? So you can't just have them there unless you have multiple conveyor loaders for them to dump stuff into. Okay, let's look at this first. Hatch eggs, this is set for hatch eggs. So this is only taking hatch eggs, and it sends them into this egg room here. So you can see we have a bunch of hatch eggs incubating. This is currently unreachable by our dupes, that's totally fine. You can see some are incubating in here. Now, this chute is controlled with automation by this critter sensor. So you can see here, this, you know, probably not the best. Probably should have put it here to save on the automation, whatever, but that's okay. This is reading how many critters are in here. So right now it's set to send a green signal if below 8. So, and only count the critters. Don't count the eggs. We only care about the critters. The eggs are gonna disperse into here. So we don't wanna count how many eggs they have. We only wanna count critters. So what that does is this opens and closes this chute. So if we hit 8, or for some reason we have 9 for maybe some issue that happened, that shouldn't happen, but it'll close the chute. And when the chute closes, these eggs skip the chute, boop, skip this, and they go to this conveyor bridge. They come out, and then they go from this green to this white. This is our dump area. This is going to be a drowning chamber at another time. That's also something you should be considering building when you are hatch farming, because it's a really efficient way to get barbecue, one of the best foods that your dupes can eat, especially in the early game. And you can do it by automating your hatch farms like this. And this, if you put this in a drowning chamber, it'll just generate lots of meat that can be cooked, and your dupes will be able to do more advanced jobs very quickly in the early game. Okay, so what happens if they output, you know, they don't always output hatch eggs. What if they output a stone hatch eggs or hatch egg? Right now I'm feeding them a very specific food where they're probably going to start outputting something slightly different than a sage hatch, or than a hatch egg. They might start doing a sage hatch egg for some reason. If that's the case, that all gets sent here. So not only do the sage hatch eggs and the stone hatch eggs get sent to this one, all the coal gets picked up and pulled out of here. So there shouldn't ever be anything in this area at all. This should always be clean, because all of these eggs are going to here, all the specialty eggs are going to here, and the coal is going to here. Now this one goes immediately to our chamber. So we have this one which tries to dump in here, but if this is shut, then it goes to the drowning chamber. So this is essentially a filter, and we don't have filters for our shipping yet. So this is like an early game filter using just a simple double loader with a bridge priority here. And I want to talk about this bridge priority real quick, because this is a very important element to your builds in Oxygen Not Included. That applies to both liquids and solids like these, and air flow tiles. If we didn't have this here, and instead we had just this conveyor rail here, this wouldn't work. And the reason is because as eggs get collected right here, it wants to go from a green to a white. And that's how everything works. It wants to come from this green and hit this white. Everything's like that. You know, that's more complex. But look, green to white. It wants to do that, okay? Green to white. Green to white. And when you're building this stuff, you want to think about having one white to many greens, or one green to many whites. So think of it like a tree. You have your tree trunk, which is your green, and you can either do green to many branches, which is your whites. So it branches out and You could have like 100 different branches, or you could just have a very simple tree like mine, green to 2 whites. It also works the opposite way with the roots, okay? 2 greens to 1 white. So these are the roots, see? So top of the tree going to 2 roots. So you just want to make sure you have, on any given line, you want 1 green going to multiple whites. And there are reasons why you would want to break that. But in general, that's how you need to be thinking about this stuff. Okay, so why wouldn't this work? If this wasn't here and this was just a simple line, this would get confused. So this green would take over. So a sage hatch egg or a piece of coal it would split here. So it would go from here and it would alternate. So a piece of coal would go here. Maybe the next thing is another piece of coal. Then it would come up and into our chute. And that's not what we want. This would only go here. And then if this gets disabled, this just gets clogged up and is no longer being used. So what this bridge is doing is it's saying, hey, you have a green to white right here. You have a green to white here. But with this bridge here, this green to the white up here, that doesn't count. That doesn't count at all. Now what we're doing is we're saying, hey, this green and this green, all that goes to this dump here. This green hits this and it doesn't split, but if it can't go in here, then it goes to the dump. That's why it's overlaid. But if we had this like, maybe split like that, maybe, let's just use our imagination for a minute. If it was set up like this, it would alternate between. See the difference? Okay. But because it's this, it's going to prioritize what is on the line first and check, hey, can we dump down here? Think of this like if you have a pipe in your house and you fill it with water, you just cut a hole in the pipe. So the water's going to want to go down here. But if that hole is filled up or closed, the water's just going to continue. That's what this is here. That's what that's doing. Now, for instance, if, say, we didn't have this at all, let's actually visually show this to you guys. We're going to cut these off so you can just pretend like this is right. Now, this is still going to go in here, but it's not going to continue because this green is now overriding it right here. So this green is saying, hey, there's a white right there. You're going to prioritize going to the white. 2 greens going to 1 white. That's what's happening here. Now this will also work, but this will come and split in here. So anyways, that's a little demonstration and you just need to play around with it, but you got to understand all that stuff. Now, here's something I forgot up here, and that is creating the same exact setup for our dump here. So we are going to be doing that just like that. Nice and cute. And you can see this is unreachable. So we're just going to open her up. Okay. So I went over the conveyor belt. Now, what the heck is this thing doing? What's this? So we have this. This shuts off the chute so the eggs can get managed if we're full. But what happens when we're not full? Well, what happens when we're not full is the eggs just get dumped here. See? And right here, this is managing whether or not this door opens. And all this is doing is saying, hey, is there a critter in here? If so, open this door and then just close it again. So what happens when one of these eggs hatches, all of the eggs and that hatch are going to come down here. And the cycle is going to repeat. As soon as that hatch clears this area, this is going to lock back up again. And all these eggs, all these extra eggs are now going to be sent by the auto sweeper, because they land here, back into this, and it's going to run the check again. So the check being this. Are there enough hatches inside of our area? If there aren't enough, put it back in the egg chamber. But if there are enough, all the excess eggs, put them in the dump. So this will just, if there's a hatch missing, it'll start prioritizing these eggs in here. That's all it is really doing. And it's an effective way to just make sure that you're always having new hatches in without using a critter incubator, which uses a lot of power, especially for early game, and also it can harm if you have too many hatches in here in your base. So anyways, that's the simple setup. I hope you guys utilize something like this in your base. It's a very effective means to get the amount of barbecue that you need for your dupes, especially early on. And one last thing, I believe I mentioned this, but in case I didn't, you want to make sure that this is going into a drowning chamber so that this is full of water, so that way it kills your hatches right away and turns them into some nice meat. Anyways, yeah, so they're gonna go finish building this stuff, and I hope to see you guys on the last episode. Just a little bit of housekeeping here. I recorded a Oni for Dumdums play along episode, or play along for Dumdums episode, but I didn't have my mic settings right, so I ended up building all of this. This was a 5x, and now it's a 4x. And the reason I changed that is for the decor bonuses for later, because I do plan on keeping this long term for this game, or for this playthrough. But I don't have myself building these things. So if you needed that extra help, I don't have it. And if this isn't good enough, then let me know, and I'll show you how to do. I'll just build a third one for sage hatches or something. So just, let me know what you need, and if you need help, because I'm definitely here for it. Okay, thank you guys so much, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.